What you're seeing is the new Italian tank that everyone is talking about. To be more precise, it's a prototype presented at Eurosatory these days by the joint venture, the Industrial Alliance between Italy and Germany. An equal partnership featuring Leonardo and Rheinmetall, giants of the defense industry who are trying to make their mark on the market with a new heavy vehicle. Besides the Beast, Italy has showcased other vehicles, other machines we've talked about in the episodes before this one. For example, the Iveco Otto Melara consortium brought a model of what will be a wheeled self-propelled howitzer. IDV, on the other hand, made headlines with a new family of UGVs, unmanned ground vehicles. This shows that defense companies are drawing lessons from modern crises to look for solutions for the defense of countries and, clearly, for the crews. Needless to say, next to the big brother, we also saw the younger offspring of the alliance between Italy and Germany with the prototype of the A2CS, which will require a separate in-depth look, don't worry. But today we're focusing on the new Italian tank. We're doing this with an analysis written by Mauro from the Mondo Militare channel, who prepared this episode for us since he's been following land technologies and vehicles for a long time. Let's start by taking a small step back, by stating the vehicle had already caused recent discussions and controversies because of two images leaked online related to the vehicle on display, which were initially considered by many to be a product of artificial intelligence or, in any case, not genuine images. Time has been fair and confirmation has arrived. The new images and videos have finally made it possible for us to talk in more detail about what we know regarding the vehicle. As already pointed out in the previous video, the turret is the most debatable element, both for its size and for the space between the turret and the hull. As for the first point, the definitely significant size of the turret comes from the choice made by the Italian army, which opted for a, so to speak, more conservative approach, deciding to go with a manned solution, meaning with a crew in the turret. This decision clearly played a key role in the architecture of the turret, forcing a larger design to ensure enough space for the crew members. As for the space between the turret and the hull, there has been a lot of discussion about it lately, and it's necessary to clarify a key point, the short trap issue. Although this issue has historically existed, with several historical examples dating back to World War II, with modern APFSDS rounds, which is quite a tongue twister. Every time I try to pronounce it, this possibility is practically non-existent. To make it as brief as possible, Mauro explains to us that when a modern kinetic projectile hits an angled surface, there are two possible scenarios. Either it penetrates the armor or it shatters. As a result, the risk that an APFSDS round will bounce off the turret and pierce the hull roof is practically zero. Not to mention that similar designs are shared by other vehicles, such as the Leopard 2 from version 5 onwards and the KF-51 itself in its early iterations. That said, and always remembering that we are civilians and enthusiasts, not military or engineers, this gap can still represent a possible vulnerability against threats such as ATGMs, RPGs or drones. Focusing instead on the armament part, as we have already said, the vehicle will be equipped in its Italian configuration with the new 12055 from Leonardo, which will be paired with an automatic loader, thus effectively eliminating the need for the loader crew member. And it should be emphasized that it is prepared for a 130, which could therefore be adopted, if necessary, without further work on the tank's turret. Still on the subject of armament, it's worth highlighting the presence of the hit roll turret for anti-drone rolls on top of the turret. The turret was presented by Leonardo along with the X-gun armed with the Blaze 30 cannon, which would provide the tank with an additional line of defense against drones. We'll get to drones in a second. It can use programmable ammunition. We talked about it yesterday as well, since this weapon will be used on the new UGVs from IDW. Today's episode is full of tongue twisters, which, as we recall, is now part of the Leonardo family. So that's good for both commonality and logistics. As for the systems installed, in the case of the model presented, we see a predominantly German suite, but one of the most interesting elements is the presence of the new Attila, the evolution of the new Attila. This optic, as Mauro explains to us, is currently being developed by Leonardo and will be optimized for long-range surveillance with an independent stabilization system. Latest generation thermal optics with high-resolution images and the now now essential hunter-killer capability. Another very interesting aspect that addresses modern crises is the integration of drones, which will make the vehicle a so-called dynamic platform. Although this configuration does not seem to be present on the model on display, it will be possible to integrate the systems with the vehicle, working in synergy, carrying out reconnaissance or offensive actions using drones. This aspect forces us to open up another line of discussion. The information sheet for the displayed vehicle indicates the possibility of a fourth crew member. Most likely, as already suggested with the old KF-51, he could take on the role of drone operator. This last operator, together with the implementation of the Vulcano 120 munitions and evolution of the Vulcano, would give the vehicle the ability to strike potential threats beyond the line of sight and without having to rely on the direct line of fire we're traditionally used to, but turning the tank into a sort of artillery vehicle which operates as mentioned in synergy with drones, which in this way would provide targeting references and ensure excellent situational awareness. It's also worth mentioning the auxiliary power unit, which will allow the vehicle to maintain stealth watch mode, through which surveillance systems can remain active even with the engine off for about 8 hours, reducing the vehicle's thermal signature. A brief note should also be made about the weight. We're talking about 69.5 tons in the full combat configuration, including future upgrades. Now, the information here seems very generic, but if we look at the renders shown and the same model displayed at CanSec 2026, we can see the presence of additional armor packages on the turret. That's why we can assume that the weight of the model shown is lower, even though we don't have that information. We don't have the official weight, but it can be assumed that the tonnage is around 60 to 65 tons. However, the information is not very clear, so the exact weight of the vehicle still needs to be clarified. We'll come back to this in the future. Regarding propulsion, we still lack definitive confirmation. We know that for the 2Cs it will be entrusted to the DV, but there is still a question mark for the new tank. In conclusion, as you know, here on the channel, we always try to have a commercial approach to new platforms. We try to tell you about new technologies, contracts, but always with a commercial approach. So it must be said that not only Italy, but also other countries are bringing their own defense solutions to Eurosatory. So, as we often say, the Italian-German one is a gamble. An investment after the unsuccessful attempt that was the O40, perhaps more suitable as a comparison than the already known dynamics of the Ariete. After all, with just as many commercial successes as the M346, the Lince, or the Centauro, the Italian industry has shown that it can rack up successes like these. It's an investment that we will obviously follow, as with many other Italian programs that dare to go, if you will, in a direction opposite to the market. As we're seeing with this helicopter, I remind you to follow Mauro's work on the Mondo Militare channel, which should soon start publishing regularly again. And if you want to support our work, leave a like, a comment, and share this video on your social media. Thank you very much. See you soon here on Gens Italia.